Good morning, my fellow travelers on spaceship Earth. It is I. How are you guys all doing? I am going through my dad's letters from when he was in the service. 67. All I'm doing now is just trying to put them in the right years. Because apparently my dad was required to write my mom every week. And so he was in for 3 years, so that means we've got 150 letters of some sort or another. Maybe 160 letters. But it does it's interesting to show a timeline of things, which is kind of cool. Some of these letters are still folded. Weird. So, 67, we're still in 1967. This was one of the finds that I had that I was so excited about when we first got here to this job that I'm doing. This pretty much is a almost day-to-day life of my dad when he was in the military, when he was serving during Vietnam. He wasn't serving in Vietnam, but he was serving during Vietnam. And so it is an almost everyday thing. This isn't going to help me any at all. 68. 68. And here's my dad being in the hospital. 68. We can place that to the exact day as well. I find that fascinating too. Good morning, Brent. So an interesting thing is happening doing this for me. Not only is this obviously entertaining and fun and kind of cool, but the more I throw away, the more I become lighter in spirit and stuff like that. This is weighing on me more than I thought. And so this has been a very good thing health-wise. I didn't think I had been quite as affected by this as I have been. I mean, not things like my dad's letters and stuff like that. January 1, 1969. Another one from January 1, 1969. January 6th. Things are getting real hectic now, for I am in my last week. As usual, I put so many things off until the last minute. Tell me my dad was an ADDer without saying he was an ADDer. This is 68. 66. 66. This is 69. Right there. And then this small stack is the only stack where he dated it January 17th, but did not date it what year. And they've been pulled out of order. So they may or may not be in the right year. But these are, it's only 2 letters. And we have a day. So this is Monday, January 17th, and this is Sunday, January 2nd. So all we need to do is figure out between 1966, or 65, 66, 68? Where's 67? These are all 66. These are all 68. My dad was doing nothing in 1967. They just ended up in a different box. Because I tried this before, obviously. But I just need to figure out which one of these years. This is 65. Interesting, I don't know 67. I can do that very quickly. This is why we invented things like before. Day of the week was a Tuesday for 1968. So that means this is Sunday, January 2nd. So that's not 68. Let's see. So in 65, it was Sunday was on or Saturday was the 2nd. So this is 66. Good. And there we go. That was easy. I'm just going to look through here and make sure I didn't put 67 in here. Thinking this was 67 and did a classic ADD thing of sticking 67. No, so 67 just went somewhere else. I already sorted it because there's not a lot in 65 either. And I know my dad shipped out in about the middle of the year because these are November and the letters aren't in here. So I have another stack of these somewhere that have not been dealt with. And probably what I did was sort of a classic thing of scanning them all in and then kind of doing it. You want scritches. We'll always give you scritches because you are a scritchy cat. All right, so here is 69. Here's 68. Sideways. We don't have 67. This isn't just a mentally thing. For some reason, since I started this process, I have also lost physical weight, which is kind of cool. All right, you helping me with this? You helping me with this, Fuzzy? There we go. Sit in this chair right here. All right, do this thing. Oof. There's no, oh, this is 1966. Yeah, I had 2 of these tags, and the other one doesn't say anything. When, where, or what. So we've already messed this pattern up. That's nice. Actually, you know what I should do? Let's do this. And then maybe take one of these. Because once I do something big like this, if I put the words on there, like this. There we go. Just wrote Dad letters, U.S. Army. Now I can take pictures of these things. And when I find these things as thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of letters, I don't have to worry about say PFC on here, so spending a lot of time on this, but like I said, I am becoming so much of a better human being for doing it. It's not to say that it's sad to, aw, little springy dude is falling out of it. All the springs are dead. There we go. So all I had is 65. Start with 66. These are the weird ones that aren't in the correct spot. See you to work. See you in a bit. Hey there, Jackson. How you doing today? You saying heyo, by the way? Yesterday, I found out that my Roku has like a TV station channel that you can switch to where it just shows like TV. And one of the channels is Johnny Carson. So I was watching that because I like Johnny Carson. He was funny. But you said heyo, and in my head it was Ed McMahon. Heyo! All of a sudden, I had a sudden Ed McMahon moment. It's pretty funny. What, am I not paying attention to you there, George? Is this a, you're not paying enough attention to me? You must pay more attention. You've been very loving since you escaped. So a couple of days ago, George walked out the front door. Just walked right out. Like, well, I guess that's the thing. So we finally found him in the backyard, terrified. He'd never been outside before. And between my buddy Anna and I, we were able to corner him, and then he tried to escape us by climbing up a fence. And then ever since I brought him in, he was like, "Thank you for saving me from outside. I have some cloths in the dryer." My dad was not one for spelling, apparently, at this point. Back to the, I don't think he thought that his son would ever be an English teacher and make fun of him for his funny spelling. Right? What a naughty boy. What a naughty boy. Dear family, well, I just received my typewriter. It's kind of funny because Dad's handwriting is actually very lovely. And it's funny that he felt like he needed to use a typewriter. Oh, Jackson, you'll really appreciate this. So these are all my dad's letters from when he was stationed overseas in Turkey and Germany and places like that. And during the army, during Vietnam, and of course, so his mom, my grandmother, said, yeah, right. Oh, I won't pick on you like that. You've never sat there and said, now you need to get your grades up. You've never said that to me. So, I'm not going to pick on you. This is the all old, oh, hey, Dad, you're just a little holier than me, huh? Just wondering. Anyway, so anyway, the last letters here from 1969 in January when my dad shipped back home. And the first thing the letter says is, "Dear family, I'm heading back. Things are a little chaotic because, as you might imagine, I have put everything off until the last minute." And I went, oh, I feel this letter so much. Like, ouch. Oh, so much feels. Because I was like, yeah, I got that one. So I'm like, because ADD is indeed very much hereditary. I wonder if I can get a bluer light out of this. Yes, I can. Let's It's running such a yellow light. These two lights are blue. It's making for a little bit more of a... I keep saying 68, but this is really 66. Initially, when I did all of Dad's papers, I started out with kind of being humored and laughing at the fact that, you know, Dad saved all of the orders and everything and in quadruplicates and everything like that. And so his military file's like this thick, but only this much of it's real paperwork. The rest of it's military duplicates of everything. And so I was sitting there going, that's just so my dad. And then I suddenly realized Donald had once said something, and he's right. He's like, that's because of his ADD-induced OCD. He's saving everything because he's afraid he's going to get busted by, somebody in the military for not having this piece of paper. And he knows he loses papers, and he knows he can't find papers. And so he's afraid that if he loses these papers, he's going to end up in jail. So he's keeping 62 copies of everything so that he won't end up in jail. And that's maybe something that... Oh, yeah. That is a weird evolution. Because I did too. Because then it's like, okay, I'm glad you're talking about Hashi, but which Hashi are you talking about? Bridge? Are you talking about chopsticks? Are you talking about, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, which word are you talking about? I need you guys to write it in kanji so I can figure out what the heck you're saying. There is probably something about sound poor languages having complex writing systems to compensate. Because, of course, we all know that Japanese is sound poor, which means that it doesn't have enough. This was done with a frickin' mimeograph. Here's his Holy All Hands tour and March itinerary. Because, I mean, I realize that that's really kind of part of the reason why they used kanji, is because of that. This is my dad's already a Spec 4 at this point in time. Specialist. Look at him go. Freaking corporal, almost. When I first found these letters, Dad was still with us, and I was like, I'm gonna scan all these in, and then we'll talk about them. And then he passed away, and I don't get to talk to him about it. Kind of a bummer. I would have loved to talk to him about some of this stuff, which may explain why 1967 isn't in here. Because 67 was when he jumped out of an airplane and broke his back. So he was in the hospital for a while in 67. And those injuries, of course, came back to haunt him as an older fella. And he was having a problem getting the VA to acknowledge it. And so I may have pulled it out to help pull out 67 so that he could have something to work with for the VA, which just means that somewhere I've already scanned them in And I probably did it on the big scanner in the back, so it should be fine. I'm not worried necessarily. I didn't start throwing stuff away until this pass. So this is the pass where I'm actually putting things in a trash can and a trash bag. So I didn't start doing that until we hit this pass here. I mean, like, some of this stuff is fascinating. Dear family, well, I have no idea when this letter will get there, for the Turks are on strike, and everything has come to a standstill. I mean, like, some of this stuff is... The Turks are striking? Okay. I mean, he didn't say why. He just said that they were. Okay. All right, Dad. That cracks me up. When I finally put these all in order, I might actually find out. Oh yeah, hey, that's cool. I'll do this. I'm realizing I can stick the entire page here, and then put this right up here, and that gives me the letter and its envelope in one shot. Boy, that's amazing. Saved myself some space here. Oh. That whole letter fit on there. I kind of like this better. Yeah. A little bit less than that. While I was in Japan, I wrote a blog. And it actually is kind of fun to go back and read my blog. I saved it, of course. Yeah, it's not going to work like I want it to. That's a bummer. Yeah, right? It's a bummer. I think you know what a bummer is. You're just a cat. Life's never a bummer to you. It's full of lasers, bugs, stuff. Yeah, lasers and bugs. Don't you know what lasers and bugs are? There are days where I feel like you're insecure, you little fuzzbutt. This isn't one of them. This is the 5th visit in here for Scritches since the show started. All right. Uh-huh. Yeah. These are definitely ones that would behoove me to take into Lightroom and renumber them. I mean, because this is just something where Lightroom would also take the distortion out of it. There's quite a bit of distortion on these. Also, wartime paper. Wow. Wartime paper is like super thin. And so, I mean, just dropping it into the trash down there is causing it to just float like a leaf in the wind, which is not unlike wash. It's all good as long as we're getting work done. the stream is doing its job. Man, I mean, like, you're down to military papers, and woo, doggy. You get down there, you get a hole in it. Whee! Not good. It's funny because either my dad got docked back down, or this is earlier in the year, because he's private first class again. I wouldn't put it beyond my dad. There's a reason I didn't join the military, is because I was already sure I wasn't going to be able to do a good job of it. I'm actually pretty impressed that my dad did a good job of it. He never made it to officer. I don't think I would have either. My best bud, though, he's an officer. So, and he's also neurodivergent, so he managed to pull it off. Pretty impressed. I wouldn't have been able to do that. All I would have done was just been busted all the time. Forgotten something, or spaced something out, or be really on my butt for it. What's wrong with you, soldier? I'm like, well, where do you want me to start? I would have loved to have been in the Navy. The boats, the airplanes, it would have been the bestest thing ever. What's interesting is these are all the letters my grandmother kept of when my dad was over. And I'm fascinated that my dad did not keep all the letters my grandmother sent back. Like, I don't have the other half of this correspondence. I just have outgoing, which is fine. I'm pleased as punch to have what I have. I'm not complaining in the least, but it is interesting to me that Dad, who had multiple copies of his orders so that he could ensure that he wouldn't lose them, it says a lot that we don't have the return letters. Because my dad would have been in his early 20s, and he came back with every last scrap of paper that the Army issued him, and none of the letters of his family. Because, as Donald had pointed out, He wasn't worried about losing the letters from his family. He wasn't going to go to jail or something, or whatever was in his brain that made him OCD. That didn't, if you lose the letters from your family, that's no big deal to the U.S. Army or to the IRS or something like that. So they obviously weren't taken care of. Fascinating. It is fascinating to me. And kind of sad. It would have been nice to see what my grandmother was like as mom. I mean, I've got one telegram that he did keep, which was, a telegram from my grandmother to him saying, "Mike, have not received a letter this week. Send it." Mom. That cracked me up. Because, of course, the reason she wanted him to send letters was because he was in a war zone and she didn't know whether he was alive or dead until he sent a letter saying, "I'm still here and not dead." But it is still very funny. I know that Dad said that she was pretty tough as a mom. But my dad was an ADDer in the 1950s, 60s, 1950s and 60s. It's 1940s as well, but she's looking at this from the point of view of my son's not going to be able to operate in society if he doesn't get his act together. Which is pretty much the same thing I'm doing with my kid. It's like, get your act together, kid. Society is willing to give you some leeway on some places, but not always. Still PFC. This is a favor I want to ask of you. There are a few items that I need that I can't get around here. There's no real big rush on them, so don't break your necks trying to get them. I need some something, and then he puts, "I don't think I've spelled it right." Well, okay, but you're not helping me out here, Dad. I'm just saying. You're not helping me. Lanthanium? I don't know what that is. Oh my goodness. And that cracks me up.
works out too. I'm looking forward to seeing whether it works.
You definitely can do it. You've got the skill set. I have confidence that you will knock it out of the park. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Here we go, just chugging through all these letters. I'll probably find the other set, 67, somewhere. Only thing I'm worried about is this set right here is the period of which Dad didn't put the year on here. And on a few of them, my grandmother wrote the year on it, but my dad didn't. So if I'm missing the actual envelope, I don't know what year they belong to, so I'm a little worried if I find 67 that I have separated the letters from the envelopes. Except it looks like he got his typewriter pretty shortly after he moved to or pretty shortly after 66. So in theory, he was typing stuff, and none of the handwritten ones are going to be the ones that. And some of them, you know, like this one says April 19th, Tuesday. I can do the same sleuthing I just did before, because, you know, every day in the year precedes one day to the next year. So if you're, you know, say April 1st is on a Sunday this year, next year it'll be on a Monday, and then it'll be on a Tuesday the year following. So since it precedes, one could argue that that just means that you're
Yeah. Wrote from his detachment on detachment later letterhead. So I took a picture of the icon, the crest of that detachment, because I don't think I knew what detachment he belonged to. I mean, I think he said it. Until the day my dad died, he had his brain with him. And maybe that's because as we ADDers grow older, it's not as difficult for us to... I only have about 40 more days. Turkey. My dad hand typed this. Like, what? Oh, no. Oh, man. Somebody fell out. Right, but it's hand typed. My dad hand typed these things. How could he... I mean, it looks like an autocorrect error. He put I instead of in. But he capitalized the I. So, I mean, it's like an autocorrect error. My dad was having problems with autocorrect before the days of autocorrect. Dad. That's another one of those kind of wish he was alive still, because then I could have called him up and said, I just found this letter and you said I Turkey instead of in Turkey, and it's capitalized, which means how did you capitalize it? And he would have been like, well, maybe I was just saying I was a turkey. Maybe. Who knows? Let's see if this matches this. 31 August, 30 August, yep. This guy belongs to this guy. That was pretty easy. It wasn't that big of a loss. My dad was a cool guy. I liked him quite a bit. He was a good guy. Who would have chuckled at his own stupidness for making a typo. Making a typo that actually was out. If I ever make a book of this, that's the title of the book. In the days of typewriters, I made autocorrect errors. He's a specialist again. I can tell already this is going to be somewhat confusing to separate these out. The pay is real good. United Airlines advertises that you will make over $1 million in your lifetime with them. Dad's thinking about being a pilot. It's kind of interesting because later in life, that was his big thing. I wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to fly commercial jets. I screwed it up because of ADD. When he told me those things, it was with an abundance of ownership. So a little too much ownership. You know, like my dad was, I'm a failure in life sort of things, because his whole thing was don't be a failure in life. Like I was. And that was sad. But it's kind of sad looking on because I have made some serious mistakes, but I'm trying very hard to not do what my dad did and say, hey, attention deficit sucks. It really, really does. It is not any fun, and it isn't my fault that I have ADD. It's my responsibility. I have to do something about it. It's not my fault. I said that once I was doing a panel on it, and just that phrase alone made people cry. And it's astonishing how much that gets people. But it's not your fault. It's your responsibility. And it's the same thing as if George knocked over water. I have to clean up the water. But you can't sit there and go, Guy, why would you drop water? It's not my fault. And that's hard. And Dad never understood that. To him, it was his fault and his responsibility. The whole time. His whole life. And I've spent half my life that way. And I kind of understand it. I was talking to a buddy of mine last night, and we were talking about entitlement, responsibilities, things like that. I feel very strongly that specifically our culture right now has a real problem with entitlement. People are entitled. They feel like they're owed things. They're Americans, so naturally they should have a really high-paying, expensive job. They should be married to the coolest partner and have 3 or 4 awesome cars. And that should be the way their life is. And if they don't have that, they blame people. Lots of people. And that's something I think that we culture suffer from quite a bit. My friend called it narcissism, and I'm like, well, maybe. It might not necessarily be narcissism per se. Wouldn't necessarily call it narcissism, but to some degree, good news, it says right at the top of this in red. So my dad had the 2-color typewriter now. Good job, Dad. Looks like a purchase of the German language book will not be a bad one. As of November, just send my mail to APO Germany. That's when I went to Germany. And he was in Hertz. What is it? Somewhere. Is that a Frankfurt? Somewhere. Beeloop. Enjoy Teriyaki Tuesday. Thanks. Hearts so Gnotic. That's where it was. Hearts so Gnotic. My sister and I visited Herzogenaurach while we were in Germany. Before my sister shipped back, I went over to Germany to hang with my sister. We went to Paris and up to Berlin, and that was just way cool. And though it seems a lifetime ago, it really was just in April of 2018, which it wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. So there's that. These are all empty, but probably important. Keeping all the envelopes just in case they belong to somebody, belong to a letter that I find later on. This is a letter. Figure that one out. So, my father was in Herzogenaurach for a while, and that was cool. Wow. Just now noticed that the counter is counting down. So usually whenever I put a chip in one of my cameras, it says, these are backwards. Okay, that was particularly funny, and funnier because my dad acknowledged it too. So, this is a letter. It's folded up, and you unfold it to make the letter. And right here, he ended up with right here writing the Dear Family part, and then here's his signing off. So it's backwards, and at the bottom he was like, "What do you think of this crazy letter?" That's my dad. But yeah, when we were over in Germany, when I was over there, my sister and I called Dad while we were driving through his base. I called him on Skype. So I was holding the iPad and just turning it around and like panning the base. And somewhere along the line, my dad was like, there is something remarkably wild about what we are doing right now. He's like, I mean, think about this. In 1966, when I was over there, he's like, I was dealing with the top of the line technology that the US had for spy work. And none of it was even remotely close to what you are doing right now in a car driving through my base. He was like, can't even tell you how bizarre that is and how just downright awesome. And I was like, yeah, right. I mean, like, think about this. I wouldn't even had an idea what an iPad was. There's another one of those crazy letters. You like these crazy letters. This time he just decided to write all the way across. I think about that a lot now, because even when I was in Japan, when I was working in Japan, we hadn't hit smartphones yet. All my kids still had flip phones. So even that has now become sort of a thing where it's like fascinating to me that even when I go back to Japan, the technology will have moved. I had to get a new phone. Everything had to be replaced when I went to Japan because, none of the systems talked to each other. None of the systems understood each other. Now, all I do when I go over there is adjust the chip. I don't even think I have to do that anymore. Oh, yeah. My dad doing the same trick I did to him. Cracks me up. When and it's actually funny because this has become a hallmark of all of our family, particularly humorous. I've got a number of letters from my sister who was sending letters in Arabic. And then I found letters that I wrote to my dad, and they're all in Japanese. You'd write it in Japanese, then you write in English on one side saying, hey, this is what I said, and I'm just flexing and stuff because you're really proud of that. Well, here's letters that my dad wrote in German to my mom, or my grandma, and that cracks me up because I'm like, well, I just came by it naturally, My dad was a humorously entertaining human being. I also like to send things that were shiny. Definitely. Tell me he wasn't an ADD-er. Everything has gold on it and it's shiny. He keeps getting these cards and things like that are so yeah, I find if you guys are wondering why I'm just rambling on, it's because this is boring. I can't even imagine how boring it is to sit here and watch me do this. So I'm just going to keep talking, keep you all entertained as best as I can. Glitter. See if I can make it glitter. Yeah, see? Glitter. Tell me my dad was not an ADD-er. He was so an ADD-er. Neurodivergent. Back in the days when being neurodivergent was not a thing you wanted to be. You still don't want to be a neurodivergent now. It's just that at least now we can operate in society. Back then, man. Just wanted to say that I sent $260 home in my last letter. $1966. That's $1968, I guess, where we are. Yep, there you go. Spec 5. Hertz of Gnark. Company B, USASA, field station. Mother's Day, 1968. Hertz of Gnark. Hertz of Gnark was beautiful. It was full of, it was a little town, which, had those kind of quaint little German, Austrian sort of houses, that little brown roofs, but also like the brown the brown wainscoting on the front, where it's like it's white, but it's got the brown beams. It was like such a classic feeling. It felt so German, like almost like they were going out of their way to be German. But you could definitely tell that Herzogenaurach was close to Switzerland and close to that border as well. And I don't know what this was, but I hope it was enough that I could figure something out on it at some point in time. Maybe not. Not a whole lot left of this letter. So here is my dad in 1968. Out the letter, so I'm just going to sit it right in the center here and hope that everything is all right there. Well, I am really a man of few words today and can think of nothing more to talk about. Love, Mike. All right. Here go the letters from that part of that time. He's in a Red Cross hospital, so it says May 1st. Well, everything is still all right, although I am still in the hospital. I don't know how long I'm going to be here for everything. Or for every time I ask, they just beat around the bush. They let me get up a little today. Physical therapy. Dad. So what had happened was a bunch of people in his squadron were cross-training for parachute jumping. And on one particular jump, my dad jumped from the plane, and they weren't using steerable parachutes. They were using World War II surplus. And so the parachutes weren't steerable. And so my dad came down, and he came down on the runway and broke his back. So he ended up in a Red Cross hospital, apparently, wondering what the heck's gonna happen to him next. Oh, he's got a whole bunch of writing down here. I better make sure I crap that bottom. There we go. So that was what happened to my dad. He ended up ingratiating himself to the VA for that. Big letter. This belongs to you. January, February. Wow, that's February. This one belongs to you. All right. The cute thing about this whole thing, though, is that somewhere along the line, my mom and my dad started writing to each other while Dad was over there. And their relationship started sort of here. Not like they didn't know each other, like I've said a number of times. My mom and dad lived in a little teeny town. Here's a picture of my mom and dad at the same birthday party when my mom was 5. So they've known each other their whole lives, but I don't think they ever really got into a relationship until this. Everything has a story. It makes it a thing. That's good art. No, why did you do that? Oh, man. I just received word about Mr. Harlan last Friday. I had not received my shock. I was glad to hear it. It's so much. I mean, I'm sure I'll figure it out some along the line. These are all people, of course, that would have died before I was born, so wouldn't know. Oh. Dad writing in print so that you can easily read it. It cracks me up because he's obviously somebody who's been making fun of him for his writing. And he had such a beautiful hand. Dear family, just thought I would write you a note and let you know that I got back all right. I'm not typing this letter because this friend of mine's wife borrowed it while I was on leave. I have not gotten it back yet. I am printing the letter because all I have is this felt marker and it would have been hard to read if I wrote with it. I'm entertained. Oh, my dad. My dad was a character and a quarter. I hope people remember me the same way. I was a character. That'd be fine. I'd be okay with that. He got his typewriter back. Check it out. He's typing this letter. Type. I like the one that he wrote where it was something like, it's 2 a.m. and so I'm going to make this short. And I'm just imagining, like, he's in the barracks. I'm just imagining everybody else going, Davis, give it a rest. Quit writing with people. Oh, that cracks me up. Oh, man. Dear family, well, I have CQ again, so I thought I would write you a letter while I was sitting here guarding the nation. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. He'd be guarding the nation, except of course he wasn't paying attention while on watch. But hey, that's okay. He was writing his letter. Although, I mean, I'm sure that not a whole lot happened to bases in Herzegovina, Germany. But hey, you never know. Yep, this is mostly what his letters are. Well, I just thought I would write you and let you know that I just went to Garmisch this last break. I got 2 good days of skiing in, and boy, am I sore. He had a hard time in the Army, didn't he? Boy. Although it is funny looking back on my sister's letters when she was stationed overseas. Same thing. We went here. It was fun. We shopped. We did stuff. Later I find out, her base was under attack a couple of times. And she was put on alert. And she had guard duty. And, there was an M1 tank sitting next to her. And it was looking for something because the tank turret kept moving. Things like that. And it was like, that's not sitting around doing nothing. That sounds pretty scary, actually. Somewhat terrifying. But, like I said, what they did in the Army, for the Army, they don't talk about it. So they're talking about what they didn't do in the Army for the Army. Which makes some sense. I'm not going to knock them for it. I did say, though, I was talking to my sister over the weekend. I said, hey, somewhere, write that stuff down. Because once you're gone, it doesn't matter. And the reason I say that is because Dad did a whole bunch of top secret stuff. It was all top secret. Super, super secret stuff. Where he was working with, these massive ENIAC-style computers and stuff like that. And you're like, the reason it was top secret is because we didn't want the Russians to get our technology. But whatever we were using in 1967, certainly, I don't think we have to worry too terrible much about them getting it now. And it would have been cool to know that, you know what I mean? But, he was locked down. He could not talk about it. Well, okay. I don't fault that, certainly. But it is one of those things, May 15th, May 13th. Looks like this is both the same letter. I don't fault that, but wouldn't it be fascinating to hear that story now? And it's like, now that Dad's gone, there's, they can't throw him in jail or anything. It wouldn't matter. They really, in real life, don't need to worry about it. There's nothing to worry about here. So it's kind of one of those things where kind of would have been fascinating to see, hear, kind of follow what was going on at the time and what technology they had. It's even funnier because as a NASA fan, I'm pretty sure I know almost everything they had available to them because NASA was using it. And yeah, NASA was keeping it under their hat at the time, But since then, NASA has more than happily released all that information. not even thought twice about it, you know? And it is fascinating to me. It's like Enigma machines. Enigma machines are amazingly fascinating. It's super awesome, incredible, overwhelmingly amazing technology for 1945, but I could build it in a decoder ring today. You know what I mean? Oh, here's all 1967. It just got caught in a clump. Well, luckily he did indeed date them. That's good. So shortly, we will have to start talking about the path to becoming the evil scientist, Dr. Guy. This is my battle plan. You see, I'm going to become an evil scientist. Become Dr. Guy. I'm not worried, man. Do what you need to do. We're working. That's literally, Jackson, you are doing what this stream is supposed to do. I'm just keeping you company while you work. And you're keeping me company while I work. And I don't expect you to be anything other than just moral support hanging out there. I don't know what that means. Kirchagons. Not sure what a Kirchagon is. Sounds Kirchgone. Kirchgon. Whatever, Dad. Sometimes with my dad, you're just kind of like, well. Don't worry about it, fam. Don't worry about not being here. You and Brent both have real lives to live, and that is totally fine. You aren't. You're here in moral support, and that's good enough. This is the longest, stupidest job. It's not stupid. I really am glad to be doing this. And this is one of the more important accomplishments that I'm ever doing for my family. But it is long, it is a tedious job, taking a lot of time. And so I'm glad to just have you guys with me. Keeping me company during this time while I'm doing all of this. But this is so good for me. And it's so good for who I am. October 2nd. Dear Emily. It is kind of cool though. I mean, yeah, this is kind of boring. What did he send? Dodge Charger. Oh, wow. In 1967, a Dodge Charger came base at $2,697. That's the 318. My dad's getting a big monster truck or monster muscle car. Look at him. $140 for the AM FM with a rear speaker. $180 with a 4-speed transmission. Because my dad. $68 for the vinyl top. $64.85 for 4 chrome steel wheels. $38 for 2 headrests, because that wasn't a given at this point. And $38 for for tinted glass. Oh, Dad. I'm like, Dad, don't tint your windows, bro. Tinting your windows is totally a thing kids do. Wait, my dad was a kid. Then he's got a Plymouth Barracuda here. Given a choice between a Charger and a Barracuda, I would have gone for that Barracuda. Oh my goodness. If nothing else, just that back window on the Barracuda. Sometimes there's elegance in car design, and that Barracuda was definitely elegant, as opposed to the Charger, which was kind of stupid looking. It wasn't stupid looking. The coolest part of the Barracuda is that fastback on it, which just looks so sweet. My dad should have gotten a Barracuda. We could have talked about your Barracuda. I would have loved that. Would have gotten a Barracuda. If it was the 60s, that would have been the car I would have probably gotten as a Barracuda. I mean, really, Blondie sang about that. Barracuda. I mean, like, Blondie's singing about it. It's a car. April 5th. That's not this guy. This is March. Those prices, right? Right? Dr. Mac's brother passed away at this point. At some point. Dr. Mac was my grandfather-ish. My grandmother was an interesting individual. She was married first to my dad's dad, whom I guess was messing around or something. I don't know. Whatever was happening, my dad's dad, she divorced. It's not 100% clear because Dad sent this to the shop. Well, nice. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. In the end, she divorced him when my dad was like 3. And then remarried Guy Davis, or my namesake. Guy Davis was whom my dad called Dad, and named after him. Dad's typewriter ribbon was like dying off. Paid. P-A-I-E-D. He's just like, I'll throw vowels at this word, and if I throw enough vowels at it, they'll stick. And people will understand what the hell I'm saying. All right, Dad. Good job. Keep going. Throw those vowels. You never know what'll happen. He's having a vowel movement. So, like I said, I don't think he anticipated that his son would be an English teacher. But, there's that. It happened. It's a thing that occurred. Okay, so it does look like 67 was in the middle of the 68 pile, which makes some sense. Now he's comparing a Beetle, 1500 Beetle was $1,381 base. Look at that. $73 for a sunroof, $50 for the handling cost, $45 for the US equipment, and $9 for leather seats. He put like all the vowels in there, man. Shipping is $97 for ocean freight, $22 for port handling, $20 for marine insurance, $4 registration, $40 for full coverage insurance for 2 months. It's $20 a month for his insurance. That's full coverage. And 1967. Woo, doggy. I know my dad shipped back a Beetle at some point in time because he talked about it. He was in Germany and he shipped back a bug. And I know that my uncle drove that bug for a long time. Like well into my lifetime, he was still driving that bug around. And then I think my aunt crashed it. It's just one of many crimes that my aunt perpetrated on my dad. My dad was not fond of my aunt. This is my grandmother, who took the back of this letter and wrote an advertisement on it. That's kind of cool. Teacher student discount. That's cute. That's interesting because that's a different piece of family history there. That's part of my grandmother's shop, which is great. All right. December 21st, 67. We had our Christmas party last Saturday night, and believe it or not, I only had 2 drinks and left. Contrary to what you said in your last letter, I've done very little drinking lately. God. Nana was on his butt for drinking. He's in the Army, Nana. He's in the Army. Give him a break. Jeez. This is interesting because the address is cut out, which probably was actually not my military, but done from my grandfather's. For the ads in the military APO, it's always confusing. And people screw up all the time. When I told my dad this, the address for him to send me stuff, just took a picture of it and sent it to him. I'm like, you're never going to get this right, so just print this out. 67. So either one of these match these. Because I mean, there was no way my dad would never figured. And you know, it's city kanji, so like city and prefecture and crap. Never figured that out. Even if I did write it in English, he still wouldn't have. And I was worried that if he wrote it in English, it'd never get anywhere. Yeah, here we go. We're at the end of his Oh, I really don't have much news except a little about my car. As you know, the longshoremen are still on strike, and it sounds like they will be for another week or two. I just read in the papers yesterday that the government will start shipping foreign-made cars for the duration of the strike. That's interesting. Wonder if his car got stuck over there. He had a Spider, an MG. This is a 67 Spider. That's it, guys. That's the last letter. But he had a MG Spider, and I know he had it over here for a while. They sold it. Part of his love of British vehicles. But he really loved that Spider. And so there was something sad about him having to get rid of it. For whatever reason, he needed a different car or whatever, and he just couldn't keep it or something. I don't remember exactly what. I'll find out because it's written down somewhere. They keep calling in the middle of the day, and it's my medical clinic, and it's always the same one, you know. Just like yesterday, we're calling today to remind you that in 4 days you have a doctor's appointment, and then the next day it's just like yesterday, we're calling to say. I'm not that likely to forget everything. So, hi, George. You're winking at me, George. You know what that means? It means you want to be scratched. I'm okay with that. I'll give you scratches because you're a good cat. There you are. Huh. Okay. Jeffco Public Library just sent me welcome to the Jefferson County Public Library system. I sort of did that like a couple of weeks ago, but you know what? Hang out there. That's good. You do you. And this is the appraisal for the engagement and wedding ring for my dad and my mom, which I will also throw away, but not until after I've taken a picture of it. It is both sad and good that my dad was OCD, because I've got all of these awesome, incredible artifacts but at the same time, it's a burden. Once I've taken a picture of all of these things, they no longer are part of the story if I don't carry it, if I don't keep it. Wow. I think about this a lot, especially now. Went through the divorce paperwork that's over there between my mom and my dad. My dad, of course, kept every piece of paper. My mom didn't, so it's all one-sided. But I often think about these things where it's like, look at all this work. All this work that my dad put into the marriage. Although this is signed by Donna, which means it's my mom's side, but still. And for reasons that are beyond me, it's an airmail letter from Lawrence. Lawrence is my uncle, or was my uncle, my great uncle. He's my grandmother's brother. And this is a huge frickin' letter of 1,000 zillion things. Oh my God. Oh, Lawrence. Unlike my dad, Lawrence's handwriting was atrocious. The thing about Lawrence that I loved was he was just one of those people who looked gruff and mean and wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, he was a big, burly guy with down-swept eyebrows and huge demeanor and a gruff, low, deep voice and everything. And really, he was just like this sweet guy. He spent most of his life just kind of staring at us kids like, I don't know what you guys are doing. Which cracks me up every time. There's one. There's two. You know what? I'm going to shut you off temporarily because we're going to take some time trying to figure out what the heck this letter was for. 3, 5. Is this 4? Oh, gosh. 7. Stay now. And a blank sheet of paper. 6, 7. Where's 3? Oh my God. Oh my God, this is a completely different letter. And big burly Lawrence, as big and burly as he was, obviously could not keep pieces of paper straight. I'm missing an entire piece of paper. Oh. Well. There's a piece of family history I didn't know about. Dear Evelyn, 9, 4, 8, 7, 8, 3, 4, 5. This must be 6, 7, 8. One, 2. All right. At least we got this letter in order. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 4 just got stuck. That's part of the problem. 4. All right. But what I was just saying here is a bit of interesting family lore that showed up. Lawrence was working for the same company my dad was. I didn't know that, but that explains a lot. Like, how did my dad end up at a random oil company in Louisiana? And if, for some reason, Lawrence and Virginia Ann had gone over there before him or after him or something, that means there was a connection somewhere on these. April 24th, 74. And that makes a lot more sense. Virginia Ann was one of my favorite people. Virginia Ann was Lawrence's wife. She was a teacher, but she was sort of the person that I sort of modeled my teaching style after, because she was excellent with us when we were teenagers. And all because, see you later, Jackson, meet well. Oh, so do I. Behold, I have a meeting as well. I will finish this, and then we shall go to meeting. And what I will probably do is finish this during the end credits. Thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate you all. I hope you all have a wonderful day, full of excitingness and coolness, and all of the above. And as always, I hope that you will always keep your eyes on the stars. See you later. Bye-bye, guys.